Welcome into the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today we are live from Tysons, Virginia at Inductive Automation's Data Center Discovery Day. Joining the show today we have Travis Cox, Chief Technology Evangelist for Inductive Automation. Guys, welcome to Tyson.
Hey, Jeff, it is good to be here. I'm your co-host with the Energy Tech Podcast, Mike Flores, again, right here in Tysons, Virginia at Data Center Discovery Day 2026. And this is a person I've been trying to get on the show for quite some time, Mr. Travis Cox, the Chief Technology Evangelist at Inductive Automation. Travis, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
No, this is great. You know, I've been meaning to ask you, and we're going to talk about a data center. And, you know, I love the title, first of all, the Evangelist. And I watched last year's keynote. Okay, so you addressed last year for Data Center Discovery Day in 2025. You are the Evangelist. Let me ask you this. You had a message last year. What has changed in the messaging from last year to today?
Well, there's so much that's happened in this 1 year.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to see the innovation, just the change,
Yes.
right? And with the growth, there's so much growth, change is imminent, right?
Yes.
We have to evolve. And I feel like we're at this place now where the dreams that we had are actually realized.
Yes.
Where we can get into a place where we can actually scale the way we need to scale.
Yes.
We can get data to where it needs to go. We can help operations. With where data centers are going, scaling is very important with this. And we can do this all in leveraging the best of IT technologies and the best of OT technologies.
Yes.
And we can really go out and accomplish some of the problems, the use cases that are out there.
So define that message for me. Put that in what you said last year versus this year. There had to be a few key things that changed. We're right. The data changed. Here's one I'll throw it at you, which I think has been a big deal that I've seen the rise of. Two things. Number one is the Unified Namespace.
Yes.
So the UNS has evolved now, and I think right now the Unified Namespace has created kind of those immediate values in data. Where is it fitting in the data center right now?
Well, there's so much data that's out there,
Yeah.
right? And historically, it's all been trapped in these kind of islands,
Right.
These different systems. We all know the OT world's complex, lots of different protocols, and lots of different systems that are out there.
Right.
And we typically think about building those systems in isolation, right?
Right.
We're looking at SCADA. I'm going to connect to the equipment that I need, bring it in, give the data to the operators, and okay, job done. Let's go on to the next one.
Right.
We're going to go on to whatever if it's maintenance or if it's MES or any kind of applications.
Right.
And we're now thinking like, look, that data is extremely valuable to the entire enterprise.
Right.
We've got to think about data differently. We've got to think about a digital infrastructure.
Yes.
What does that look like? That's not something that any of the vendors here are trying to dictate.
Right.
It's customers have to figure out how do they want their data to be structured? Where do they want it to live? How do they want it to flow?
Right.
And what we want to do is be able to achieve that reality.
Yes.
Make it possible.
Yes, and I agree with that. And let me ask you this. Do you believe that starts at the edge? Because, again, when we talk about the UNS, we know that, as Arlen was here this morning, you know, one of the key things we talked about with Arlen was making the mistake that the broker is the single source of truth. It's not. So we rule that out. But in your mind, do you believe in order to have data, we'll use AI readiness, because I think that's what we're going to see the rise of is lots of AI readiness. Do you believe that starts at the edge with the UDT, or where do you think that begins?
Absolutely, I do believe it starts at the edge.
Okay.
If you look at architectures, say, 10 years ago, it would have been typically, at on-premise, on layer 3, where all the controls are, you have one centralized system, right? And that system would connect to all of the PLCs over the polling protocols, bring the data in, and we would historize it, alarm it, and provide visualization out, right? We just had that one centralized. Well, there's been a couple problems with having just one central system, and that is the scale of the more devices. There's a limit on how much we can actually connect to there.
Right.
Number one. Number two is we live in the real world where things can be disconnected, issues can arise in networks, and data, of course, is critical. We can't lose data.
Right.
So the idea of these a hub and many spokes, that's the edge, right? The hub and spoke architectures. And edge plays a critical role in getting the data and delivering it to infrastructure, decoupling it from any kind of application that's out there. And that's what's really important.
Right.
And so, there's new sensors coming in that, by the way, will speak MQTT and Sparkplug natively. They plug right in. They are the edge. They are already the single source of truth for that device. For all the different legacy PLCs are out there, we need an edge device that does that translation layer, guarantees we don't lose the data, provides the right context. So if you do that once there, nobody has to do it again, any layer above.
Yeah. And so having said that, let me ask you this. Ignition, you've got 8.3. You've got this, since September of that, since last ICC, great release. We talked about there's some data orchestration that has come in. Obviously, as the evangelist, as the team, as part of the leadership, you guys saw this. What drove that orchestration implementation early on?
Well, imagine a lot of us, a lot of the leaders in Inductive came from the IT background.
Yes.
Right? When we started, our founder, he was integration for over 25 years. He knows that world, he knew that world, and was frustrated with he had a lot of pain points identified. Some being technology, some being things were proprietary or licensing, and wanted to change the game, right? And so brought in IT guys like us who have a different perspective.
Yeah.
And
an enterprise perspective.
Exactly. Sure. When I came in, I couldn't believe that we pulled PLCs to get data. I'm like, you can't just tell us when the values are changed, right?
Right.
But you have to understand the world. And so our whole history has been to blend OT and IT together, right?
Yes.
To make it function, to talk the same language so that we can, rising tide raises all boats, right? So that we can go the next level. And so for us, there's so many great technology we take advantage of. We're a software company.
Yeah.
We develop Ignition.
Yes.
And on that side, we could take advantage of all the software and IT tools to do that.
Yes.
And when we deploy Ignition to a customer site, we want to be able to take advantage of the same tools.
Yeah.
And we've had this dream of getting to where we are now with Ignition 8.3,
Yes.
where all of our configurations in JSON files easily can be version controlled with GitHub.
Absolutely.
You have a complete REST API built into Ignition to access status and configuration and
Yeah.
use third-party automation tools like Ansible and many others.
Yes.
Right? We can deploy Ignition container, which allows us to be in composable architectures and be in a Kubernetes cluster. And we can't. Customers want to figure out their own way of how they manage and how they deploy.
Yeah.
And we can fit into anything with this. This has been our dream.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's unfolding products. It's having them modular capable, right? And easy to use. It's almost like if I was talking to someone on the enterprise side, it's infrastructure as code almost, saying we can deploy it that way, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You're reaching that point where you can do that. Let me ask you this, because you hit on something now I'm thinking about, and that's the OT-IT, right? And I don't think there's a war there anymore. I think there's a lot of blurring that's happening and lots of collaboration, lots going on. And so in doing so, what do you think you're seeing some of the operational and enterprise mistakes or challenges that companies are making? We'll start with the word mistake, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, first off, one of the big mistakes is operations thinking that they can deploy all of this and manage it and bring these technologies on their own, right?
Yeah.
Without any kind of IT support.
Yes.
I kind of go back into you think of when IoT started, right?
Yes.
When you had sensors you brought in that would go straight to the cloud. What was that but a way to to bypass all IT and everything and get right into an area that they can use? Well, that there were issues, with shadow IT and problems in that way. And
Sure.
And so
Celebrated workarounds is another word I like to use for that. It's a celebrated workaround,
And so it's, we need the OT people and the IT people to kind of bring the best of their expertise to the plate, right?
Sure.
And so we don't need to be experts on both sides. If we come together and you really and working on the same goals, then that's where you're going to get a lot of big wins. And I do agree, right? We don't have this rift, as much of a rift as there was before.
Sure.
Because I think we're at a convergence point where technology, where the trends of the industry, the use cases around this, especially with AI going where it's at, that there's a realization that we have to bring those worlds together.
Yes.
We can't just operate the way we used to.
And you said something that was leading me to my next question for you that I've been thinking about with you is that, at what point do you think AI becomes useful in operations now? And is it mostly noise? I really want your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if you would ask me that question maybe a year and a half ago, even last year, this time, we would have said, well, we're not putting a ton of focus on AI yet. We don't think it's ready, right? In that we've always prided ourselves with Ignition to build the tools when it's ready, when it's practical, when it can provide a lot of value to customers, right?
Right.
But our perspective has completely changed now,
Right.
We are at the point where AI is The models have gotten amazing.
Yes.
The tools that are out there to leverage AI, the tool sets that are there are incredible. They're easier to use than ever before, and it is now giving a lot of value. So two big use cases, right?
Right.
One is being able to help with developing, ignition projects or just development in general.
Right.
AI is playing a big role in that.
Right.
And we are heavily investing in putting that into our designer, into our experience, so that we can help people develop faster.
Yes.
There's a lot of legacy out there. We got to get that legacy into modern age, and we need to be able to do that with lower costs, right?
Yes.
And not a lot of implementation time.
Yes.
So that's a big area. The other, of course, is I think just having we showed the demo earlier, like a chat interface,
Yes.
and that let people ask questions in natural language, and
Correct.
not everybody knows how the screens are put together, but they do have they have questions. They want to know how things are working. They can ask this question and get answers.
Correct.
That can lead to insights, actions, and further, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big area where people are getting a lot of value. We're on the cusp right now, though, of getting to have these agentic workflows.
Yes, that was my next.
Where we're ready to go, right?
Yes.
Where we are able to predict, we're able to forecast, we're able to tell operators, hey, we think based on all these, here's the set points you should run these machines. Do you accept? Do you want to allow this to work? We're at this place where we can really get tremendous value out of the data that we have by building these workflows right into their systems.
I think you're right. So what I've seen in terms of ignition, even in the last less than 12 months, I mean, really with 8.3 in that time period, what I saw was, so you've got MCP as a devotional piece, of course. I think that's the norm now. I think that's coming across on the industrial space. So when we talk about industrial AI, I think MCP is sort of going to become a staple. I think it will become a staple of platforms. My question to you is, leading into the next ICC, do you see a ramp for agents going into the next one, or is there no timeline, Mike? I can't give you a timeline. I can only tell you that we do see a ramp towards agents available with ignition. Like, is that?
Yeah, so I don't have exact timelines, yes.
I got you.
But I do see that ramping. I mean, we, at ICC in September this year, we have some big plans to be able to show how we can leverage this technology in the right way. And people have been using AI, a lot of these tool sets outside of Ignition, right? MCP allows you to use any LLM you want, and you connect into it, and you can ask questions. We talk about doing development, for example. It's happening all outside of Ignition right now.
Right.
And so the question is, if I want to get to a production-ready system, I want to have these things ready to go in the platform, right?
Correct.
And that's where we want to go. We want to have these things available there, so it could speed up development, speed up getting to the value that they need.
Do you see in your mind maybe a suite of agents that are dedicated to industries? Energy's got its own challenge. Data centers got its own challenge. Water, wastewater. Do you believe that, or do you feel like, no, we're going to rest it in third parties, because you do have third parties that raise agents, or do you see that as something that you're working into the Ignition fold,
Well, honestly, the LLM models have gotten so good. A lot of these things are just built in there natively. They kind of learned how to, like, for example, it used to be you'd have to put a lot of work into root cause analysis.
Yeah.
And now pretty much LLMs have RCA kind of built into them.
You're right.
They're more baked in. So I think, and look across different verticals, they all have similar issues, right? There's a lot of commonalities between them. So while, I think there will be some third parties and some specific things that are being built, I think there's a lot that's going to just happen organically because it's made available already.
Yes.
And we can just gear it towards that direction.
Yeah. And so in your mind, I guess, let me ask you this. Do you see kind of the rise of something where Ignition puts out agents for the right protocol, the right layer, in the right situation? Is that too early to?
We want to have a platform where you can build the agent the way you want.
Got it. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Ignition's development platform, and nothing is baked in, to any one vertical or to any one application.
I love that. Yeah.
We provide examples of how to do things in different use cases, but the platform needs to be general purpose, needs to be able to solve a lot of different problems. And as long as our goal, our whole mission at Inductive is to basically create the future of automation by empowering people to dream it, do it. Right? Which that means if I can empower smart engineers out there to have the right tool set to take that idea of what they want to solve and be able to accomplish it in an easy way, in a way that you can scale and deploy out there, that's where we win.
Wow. I want to ask you just I want to keep you for a long time, Susan. So if we can work it, but we can't. I do want to ask you this. What is your vision right now? Because there's two things. There's a two-part question for you, Travis. The first one is, what message do you want articulated here at Data Center Discovery Day? And what is your vision when we see you next year for Data Center Discovery Day?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think there's two parts, right? One is we at Inductive with Ignition, what we want to be able to do is lay the right foundation, right? So that people, if you have the right foundation, you can build anything amazing, right? If we can have the right foundation that enables the next set of solutions and technologies on top to go to that next level, that's where it's at, right? And if we can empower people to do this, easily, and they can scale it, and they can add, they can build any kind of application they want. That's the goal. That's the foundation, right?
Right.
And we're at this time now where it's more important than ever to think about our digital infrastructures, think about modeling our data the right way, think about how that data is going to be used, what use cases are we really trying to accomplish with a lot of this. And if we can build that the infrastructure the right way, all these use cases becomes easier to solve, right? I think a year from now, you're gonna see a lot of these things in action. You're gonna see them, people actually getting value from them.
Yes. Last question. I gotta let you go for sure. I promise. You're here. You spoke, but there has to be a takeaway you want personally, not an Ignition takeaway. What is your personal takeaway from this event?
Yeah, for this event, like for me, the demo I did earlier was, highly technical, right?
Yes.
But it's because I can see where this industry needs to go, right? Where data centers needs to go, and there's so much growth. There's so many new players. There's lots of different equipment that we're doing. I mean, more and more, a data center is not just an IT center. It's a manufacturing sites. There's a lot going on with these, and we should never have to think about data. It should just be automatic, right? In terms of how that gets brought in and how we work with it, and ultimately too, when we're deploying, there's so much amazing IT technologies that are available right now that we need to get in there. It's a lot of cultural problems that we got to solve right now.
I think you did something. Ignition did something very well that I'll say. When you said that, it triggered a thought that I have, and that is, Ignition made you to not worry about tag count, and now you shouldn't worry about data. So I think that is the same path that you're taking here in terms of how Ignition is growing, right? Yeah,
because look, when in the early days, we could spend weeks just on mapping data and getting Excel spreadsheets and all of that, and there's bigger fish to fry these days in terms of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
That problem is solved. We've got, as a community, is put the tool sets and accept that, especially from the equipment vendors that are happening, so that we can just go faster there, so that we can get to the bigger problems that we're trying to achieve.
Awesome. Last question, I promise, Susan. Last one. What is your sneak peek going into ICC between now and September?
Well, I definitely encourage anybody who's thinking about going to ICC to come, because we're going to there's a couple new areas that we're really excited about that we're going to be showcasing. One is around the AI, development that we've done with the product and where that's going, and showing the real direction. And secondly is just, when we're talking about digital infrastructure, it's not just live data. Putting data into an MQTT broker and organizing UNS, that's one part. But we also have to solve the historical part where that data is usable on premise. And so these are two areas we're really going to be focusing on at ICC, and we'll have some good demos there.
Awesome. That is, I want to keep them longer, but I cannot. And with that, it is great to have Mr. Travis Cox here, the Chief Technology Evangelist with Inductive Automation, right here at Data Center Discovery Day 2026. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, I'm your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast. Thank you so much, Travis. Enjoyed you on the show, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.